Hi, welcome back to our creative videos. I'm Loretta Hayes from Hayes Sewing in Wilmington, Delaware. And today our demo, it comes from a customer request. We were asked if we would show an easy way of doing an envelope back pillow. So what we've decided to do is take a panel. So this is one of the panels we carry here at the store.
Pretty.
And we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a pillow from the panel on the right here. I was going to say the one with the vase, but they both have vases on there. So
let me just pan now. Ooh, that's pretty.
Isn't it pretty? Do you want it right side up?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
They get the idea.
All right, so you can come around on the side if you want. So the first thing that you want to do, particularly if you're doing a pillow from a panel, is you'd like to square up the panel as much as you can. This panel is actually, the printed part with the blue is actually rectangular. So it's a little shorter this way than it is this way. So what I did is I cut the panel a little bit wider on the sides using all the fabric in between the panels. And then a little shorter on the top. So this is roughly 22.5, 23 inches.
Okay.
The next thing that you want to do when you're cutting out is you want to cut two pieces of backing that are approximately the same size as our top. The critical measurement is the measurement that is on the top to the bottom. If we have a little less fabric side to side, it will not be a problem. So in my case, I cut this 23 inches tall, and I took basically 2/3 of a yard, and I slid it down the center. So I had a 23 by 22 inch square, and then all I did is I took and I pressed under about 1/3 of the fabric. Remember, this is a quick technique. There should be no serious math going on. We do not need to divide 22 by 3 to find out the right amount. So we're just folding, yeah, that looked about right. Yeah, that was roughly 1/3. So honestly, it can be that easy. In the case of this fabric had a direction. So when I pressed it, I wanted to make sure that I was pressing on the left side of this and the right side of that, just so that your fabric is both of them are going to be vertical. It would be just so easy to do this, press it over here, and then when you go to line it up, you've got one going upside down and one going right side up. So if you have a directional fabric, just pay attention to that. All right, so we are going to set those two pieces aside for a moment, and we're going to focus on the panel. And I thought we would add a little jazz of color. So we're going to take a pre-made binding. This is
pre-made piping?
Piping, yes, thank you. It is a binding company, but so it is a piping. So this is Wright's. This is the Bias Tape Maxi Piping. And what it is a small piping. So very maneuverable, very easy if you want to give your pillow a little shot of color. So we're going to take our lime green piping and we're going to start it down here at the bottom. Now you can do this with a zipper foot, but the easier way, the criteria for this class was an easy way of doing an envelope back. And so what I've done is I've chosen a piping foot, which has a channel cut out of the bottom. And so what will happen is the piping cord will actually just lay in that channel, and I'll be able to stitch next to the piping cord really, really easily. You don't have to push the fabric, the piping into the zipper foot this way. And what's nice is nowadays there is, a piping foot pretty much available for all machines. So we're going to line up the edge of the piping tape with the edge of the panel, and we're going to start about 1 inch in. We're going to place the foot on top of the piping, and I'm simply going to take and I'm going to move my needle over to the right. I'm actually going to move it as far to the right as I can, which isn't going to stitch super close to the piping. It'll stitch probably about 1/8 of an inch out. And that'll become apparent when we go to do our second piece. So off we go. We're going to start going along. We're going to take and just line up the edges, I don't pin this. When I get about 1 inch before the corner, I'm going to take and do 3 clips, one right at the corner, one about 1/2 inch in front, and one 1/2 inch on the side. And you can see that is going to allow us to curve that corner really easily, and we'll work our way around. That is also one of the advantages of doing a narrower piping. Larger pipings you can certainly do, but they take more time. The narrow piping is super, super flexible, so very, very easy to use. So we line up the edges, about 6 inches in front, and that piping cord just runs right down the tunnel in the foot. I always give it the analogy, it's kind of like a railroad car on a railroad track. Unless there's some sort of terrible accident, they tend to stay on.
Yes.
All right, so here we go. We're getting close to our corner, so we'll go ahead and cut at the corner, and 1/2 inch in front, and 1/2 inch in back. And we will then stitch around our corner. And line up down our next side. So one of the reasons why this tape is so flexible around the corners is the piping is actually done with bias tape, which I guess kind of makes sense, as Wrights does bias tapes. But it's something to keep in mind if you're going to create your own piping. So let's say that you wanted to have black and white polka dot. Okay, well, you're not going to find black and white polka dot maxi piping already made, but you could certainly do that using the same foot, wrapping around a cord and stitching next to the piping cord. But if you're planning on doing a situation like this, it might be worthwhile cutting your black and white polka dot on the bias, just to make it so that it's easier to turn those corners. All of a sudden we have little pieces of thread. Let's get those out of the way. And we're coming down to our last corner. So we'll get those last clips in there. And around the corner we go.
How much yardage is in the maxi piping?
So the maxi piping has 2.5 yards, which is perfect for this pillow, because this is going to be roughly a 22-inch pillow when all is said and done. And so you can see we only have about 3 inches of piping hanging out
Not
the back.
bad.
If you needed to do something larger, you could simply join just the same way as I'm going to do here. All right, so now what we're doing is we're coming back to the beginning. Remember, I started about 1 inch in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend that out to the right-hand side towards the salvage edge. And then we're going to come in And then we're going to take and we're going to do the same thing over here. And we're just going to overlap them. Now, this is something that you cannot do if you are doing really big piping cord. But if you're doing something like the maxi cord, you will literally be able to stitch right up over the top of it.
Cool.
And it creates a really nice looking join. And you'll notice that I put the join at the bottom, because if there's any variation, the pillow is typically sitting with the bottom at the bottom, so you won't see it. So I just cut off. I usually leave about maybe a ½ an inch or so on there. So we are now done with the piping, stitching it onto the front. And you can see how it adds just a little pop of color there.
It's really pretty.
All right, so now what I like to do is I like to go ahead and take my first backing piece. And so I'm going to make certain these are vertical. This is vertical, so we're going to make sure that we're looking good there.
You're no fun at all, aren't
No,
you?
not at all. And so we're going to line up the edges. And we're just going to throw a few pins in. I mean like 6. So nothing big here. So we'll throw a few on the side here. And you'll notice that I'm pinning on the front of the panel. So we'll line that up. And we'll get down to the corner. And then I want to at least have a couple of pins, because I want to make certain that that piece that I pressed under,
That flappy flap.
that flappity piece, that it's not going to open up while I'm sewing. So we'll throw just a pin in there. And then we'll throw one up the top as well. Or the bottom, as it was.
Other side.
The other side. There you go. There you go. All right, so we'll put one in here. And one in here. And I like to sew my backing pieces on separately. You could go ahead and pin both pieces on. But I find I'm juggling enough fabric on most pillows that if I do them separately, I'm guaranteed that I'm going to not miss anything. So here we go. We're going to tuck it underneath, put our foot down, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move our needle position 1 or 2 clicks back towards center. So we're not in center, because center would be stitching in the piping through the cord. But
right,
we're tightening it up so that that first row of piping, stitching that we stitched the piping on with, is not going to show on the outside of the bag, of the pillow. Seem to be having difficulties with objects today.
Yeah, and sorry for the movement of the camera, guys.
All right, there we go. So we're going to come along. We're going to make sure that we're catching that bottom flap. And what will happen is by moving that needle position in just a little bit, let's see if we can get enough out the back here that we can show you. Okay. So can you see that, Pam? So you can see this is the row that I've just stitched.
Yep.
And it's just to the left of the original row.
So closer to the piping.
Closer to the piping. Which means when we flip it around, there's no chance of me seeing that stitching. And that's sometimes the frustrating thing about piping is, you know, you stitch it, you get all the way around, and then you're like, oh, I can see that other row of stitching. So by simply making the first row loose, so we deliberately didn't snug up on the piping, our second row can then be really snug, and we're guaranteed not to see that first row.
Yeah, before I learned that technique, I have a pillow at my house that literally Could go through a windstorm. I think it went around 30 times.
Tries to get it nice and snug. And that is the nice thing about piping, is that, you know, if you don't get it the first time, you can't go back and do it. It's not like you have to pull the stitching out. You can just stitch a little closer to the piping. The
I am
second
living
time.
proof, yes.
And despite those little tags that they put on pillows that say, you know, the pillow police are going to come if you remove that tag, I'm pretty sure you're not going to have anybody examining your project and saying, oh, she sewed that in extra time. All right, so we're coming back to the beginning again, to the other side. What I'm aware of is this flap. So on the previous side, it was kind of going with the flow. The second side, as we come down here, it could flip under. So just be aware of it and make sure it's tucked under nice and firmly. And then we finish out a little back tack. And we have our first side completed. So that's going to be the first side of the back. So now we're going to take our second side and we're going to place it on the back. Once again, if you have directionality, make sure you pay attention to that. And once again, we're going to throw a few pins in just to keep everything positioned. And you could clip this. This would be a really good place to have clips. Didn't think to bring them with me.
I could run to get them if you need them.
No. Pins are fine. But I am a fan of clips. Particularly, these are cotton because it's a cotton panel. But if you're doing maybe some umbrella, you know, you're going to do some pillows for outside. Now your fabric is a little bit thicker. It's a little harder to get those pins through. So the clips would be perfect in that situation. All right, so now we're going to line up, going down the side. And we want to make certain that we get that third flap tucked under and pinned in. And we'll do the same on the other side. I think we're going to have 3 pins on this side as opposed to 2. Alrighty. So I'm happy with that. And now we'll go ahead and we will stitch the second piece on. And this was such a good question to ask, you know, a request. And by the way, if you have requests, can't say that we accommodate everything, but certainly if you have a request for an item, please let us know. You can drop them in the comments. Patricia will let me know that there was a request. But oftentimes, what hinders people from making a pillow might be the fear of zippers. You know, oh, I don't know if I can put a zipper in. Although that is one of the videos that's going to come up in the next month, because we figured if we did one with an envelope back, we'd do one with a simple zipper as well. So that'll be coming up. But if you're like, you're a little intimidated with a zipper, this is super simple and looks really nice. around in our last corner. And then remember that that wants to flip out. So kind of keep an eye on that as you get close to that. Make sure it stays tucked in. There's a lot going on right there at that bottom. You've got the joint of your piping. You've got that flap. So just kind of double check it as you go. All right, and we're to the end. We're going to hit our reverse button, hit our scissor button, and we are ready to flip this. Now, typically when I do things that are curved and whatnot, I tend to cut my corners and clip my corners, but not on pillows, and certainly not on pillows where I'm doing a cotton. If you've ever put a pillow form in and like the corners aren't really full, then by leaving this excess fabric, you're basically stuffing the corner. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to reach in, pull our pillow around. And one of the reasons why I love to do piping is because it gives me a nice clean edge. If I did this, I could have done this without the piping, but then I have to spend a lot of time at the ironing board getting the edges lined up, you know, getting the front and back pressed evenly. With this, so I just stick my fingers in the
And give it a push.
corners. Yep, and we've got it going on here.
That looks lovely.
All right, so there is our envelope back cushion. Now, we had a pillow form, yes?
Yes, sorry.
All right, she says I can't do more than one thing here. All right, so we're gonna take our pillow form. So this is a 22-inch pillow form, and you can do a quick double check once you've got your things done. And one of the things that's super nice about the new pillow forms is the new pillow forms have a zipper in the bottom of them. And so you can unzip it and you can take stuffing out or you can put stuffing in. So,
Depends on how firm you want your pillow.
Yeah, you know, some people like them soft and squishy, and some people are like, okay, I'm going to, you ready for the pillow, please?
Dun, dun, dun.
This is like the world's biggest tag. It's going to be crunchy in my pillow here. All right, so when we're taking and we're placing our pillow form into our pillow, we're going to come in and we're going to grab the backing piece that is closest to the panel. So that was the first one that I sewed on. And we're going to tuck the pillow form into that one first. And while I'm there, I like to kind of stick the corners in there. And then we'll push the second one in. And once
It's kind of like me
again,
and my jeans.
say that again.
It's like me and my jeans. You know, you do one leg at a time.
One leg at a time, okay. Hopefully we don't have to stuff it in.
Nah. No baby oil required.
All right.
That's lovely.
And there is our pillow.
That's wonderful.
All right. So you want me standing up or
Yep.
sitting down, Pam?
That's fine.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next time.